The other day we talked about a set of firearms versus a collection of firearms. So your working guns versus a collection. And I talked some about my thoughts on a set, what a set of working guns would include for me and the things I do. Well, today I want to talk about the actual collection side of it. And this is something that I think there's some pretty important things here to talk about. I want to start with an experience I had back in 2008. And my Uncle Lynn, that I've talked about before, he was a huge influence on me growing up, and he knew firearms. I mean, he really did. And we spent hours just talking, rifles, shotguns, handguns, cartridges, hunting, shooting, you name it. Well, he passed away in 2008. And his wife, my aunt, she asked me to go through his collection. Their kids, my cousins, they didn't hunt. They weren't into firearms. They didn't know what he had. And she wanted to know if I'd go through them and just, identify what was what for them. Which ones were the family heirlooms, like his granddad's Model 94 and 32 Winchester Special, and which ones were his favorite guns to hunt with, and that type thing. So I went through all his firearms, and they wrote down which was which and so forth. And he had quite a few. Well, when I'd finished going through his collection, I was just really disappointed in what he had. He had collected basically cheap, inexpensive firearms. That was the majority of what he had. He had a couple nice ones, but most of it just cheap, inexpensive firearms. And that really bothered me. I mean, I knew the guns he liked. I knew, the ones he wanted and so forth. He didn't have any of those. So after a lifetime of working as hard as he did, to not have the guns that he really thought a lot of, that bothered me. Okay, well, now I understand. Okay, at that point in his life, I was judging his collection as a hunter and someone that uses firearms. At that point in his life, he wasn't a hunter anymore. He was a collector. Okay, so that was his collection. And I understand it now. Okay, he enjoyed that. He enjoyed what he collected. And yeah, they were cheap, but he was a really practical person. Okay, my Uncle Lynn, he wasn't going to go just spend good money, on expensive firearms to just sit in a safe somewhere. That wouldn't have made no sense to him. I got me. He had a pretty good point there. So he collected cheap ones. He was comfortable spending a little bit of money on those cheap ones that he wasn't going to use. He was just collecting. And he was happy with what he collected. So I get that now. And that's the first rule right there on collecting, is just enjoy what you collect. That's it. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about them, so forth. Is what do you enjoy? There are no rules for collecting. Just enjoy it. And none of us are promised tomorrow. So, all right. That really helped me, figuring out the difference between your working guns and collecting, because they're very different. And being a collector versus someone that uses them, that's very different. And it's confusing because a lot of us are both. A lot of us have a collection and are working guns. A lot of us, we are hunting and shooting, but at the same time, we're also collectors. I understand that now. And understanding that has helped me, understand what I saw then. And I'm not disappointed anymore. We'll call it closure for me. But at the same time, okay, he was right for collecting whatever he wanted. but something that I think is important for a lot of us now. I think he was wrong, and he would have viewed, just spending money on firearms he didn't need as wasteful. That's where he was wrong, and that's where I've been wrong for a lot of years. I have tried my very best not to be a collector. This is the Simple Living channel. We're about, living within your means, not being wasteful, not being materialistic, okay? Being debt-free, not trying to keep up with the Joneses, all that good stuff. Well, I was in that mindset for so long of buying things you don't need as wasteful that I didn't realize, just like, there's a difference between a set of firearms and a collection. There's also a difference between being wasteful and putting your money into something that's not going to lose money. Okay, if you have, the type of lifestyle I'm trying to promote here, you're debt-free. You're not trying to keep up with the Joneses. You're not materialistic. And you've been fortunate enough not to lose your job during the shutdowns and so forth, and you have steady income. You're probably going to have some extra cash. Matter of fact, you're probably going to have a good bit of extra cash. And for so many of you have never known anything but being in debt. Okay, and this is why I've done a couple videos in the past on this very subject. But when you're not in debt, you'll just be amazed at how quickly your savings build up, how much cash you actually accumulate. Because all of a sudden, you get to keep the money you make instead of having to pay it all out at the end of every month. Well, just think about how much cash you would have if at the end of every month, you still have what you made that month. And then the next month, and the next month, and it builds up. Well, once you get to the point of having, a savings and cash, well, your mindset changes as far as, how you look at things. So instead of stressing over how am I going to pay my bills this month, you start thinking, okay, how can I use this money to make more money? How can I invest this? And that's what investing is. Okay, well, this is where firearms come in. And I don't consider firearms as an investment, or at least a good one. I mean, you can invest in firearms and you can make money on it. It can be an investment. I just think for the majority of us, the odds of us actually making money are pretty slim. All right. Yeah, you might stumble across that super rare whatever, pre-war Winchester that they only made one of, and everybody else missed it, and you're the one that happened to discover it, and you bought it for $5 at a yard sale, and it's worth whatever. Okay, well, you might win the lottery. Neither one of them's likely to happen. So yeah, you might make some money on one that you stumbled across, but you're probably going to lose a little bit on some others. Okay, so that's why I don't consider firearms an investment. But I do consider them a very good store of value. That is, they don't lose money. And in uncertain times like we have right now, that can be more important than being in an investment. Okay, because these are uncertain times. In the past, I would have said, hey, take your extra money, go buy a CD. Then you're going to make interest. Well, you're not making interest at the bank now. Matter of fact, if you have money in the bank and just savings, right now you're actually losing money by having your money in savings. Okay, the banks are paying so little in interest that just the rise in inflation, cost of living, is more than you're making by saving your money, so you're actually losing money saving it at the bank right now. CDs. They're not paying anything. Money markets aren't. Gold was gold I don't think of, never thought of it as an investment either, but I've always thought of it like firearms. It's a good way to preserve your money, to keep from losing money. Okay, well, it's at all-time highs right now, and generally it's never been good to buy anything when it's at its all-time high. In the past, I would have said, hey, put your money in a mutual fund, invest in the stock market. I wouldn't recommend that right now. I mean, that might be the way to go. I'm not a financial guru or advisor or anything else. I can tell you how to save money. I can't tell you what to do with it after that. I've never had enough money, to know myself what to do with it. Now, those of you with some money, I mean, y'all know. Y'all have had to deal with this before, but the rest of us, most normal people, we've never really had to deal with this. All right. But I don't trust the stock market right now. Just what little bit I do know, I'm going to be really surprised if it doesn't crash, and I mean a serious crash, before this coming spring. I mean, right now GDP's going down and stock market's taking off. I mean, it's craziness right now. All right, well, having a place that you can put money so that it doesn't lose you money, it just maintains its value. That's something pretty good to have right now, and that's where collecting comes in. So if you buy a firearm, if you paid whatever this FM49's worth now, and I'm not even sure, we'll say $900. If you pay $900 for this right now, you didn't waste that money. And a year from now, it's probably still going to be worth $900. Next week, it's probably still going to be worth $900. So buying firearms isn't a waste. It's not like you went on a cruise. Okay, you go on a cruise, that money's gone. I mean, it's just gone. If you spent $1,500, that's $1,500 gone, and you're never going to see it again. You buy a firearm, especially a used one, something that's not depreciating like a brand new one, but if you know what you're looking for in buying and so forth, you get just a good used firearm at a good price. Next week, yeah, you don't have the cash, you have the firearm, but firearms are a liquid asset, meaning they can quickly and easily be converted to cash. So next week, you could take that, whatever you paid for that firearm, next week you could convert it back to cash, or next month or next year. And in the case of firearms, okay, and I'm getting a little extreme here. I'm generally not very paranoid about, market crashes and, the economy going to pieces and all that. I'm not a prepper. I'm about simple living, not prepping. And, I've talked about that in the past. We'll talk about that some more. But right now, there's a potential for a lot of bad things to happen in the economy. There's uncertainty everywhere right now. I mean, just bottom line, I don't think anybody knows where to put their money right now as far as finding a safe place for it, much less making money. Yeah, the stock market's making money. I don't think anybody's thinking that's safe right now. Okay? If, we do, end up in a really bad situation economically, which I can't see how we're not going to end up there. Let me put it that way. No matter what, a firearm has a use. Okay, I can use this to put food on my table. I can use this to defend my home. Okay, so this has actual use, unlike Bitcoin, digital currency. A lot of you know a lot more about that than I do, but the problem I have with Bitcoin is it's not based on anything. I mean, it doesn't actually even exist. Which is the same for our dollar right now, and at least with Bitcoin, they can't just go make a bunch more of it like they're doing with dollars, but that's a whole different issue. But firearm has an actual use. No matter what the economy is doing, I can use this to put food on the table, defend a home. So firearms are always going to have some value. No matter what else happens to everything else out there, these will always have some value. They might not have value as, from a collection standpoint. It might not be worth what you paid. And in uncertain times, when we have no idea what the economy is going to do, I mean, who knows what you can get for a firearm in a year after, we go into depression or something. Nobody can say. We can't say with anything, though. We can't say with Bitcoin or gold or stocks or anything else. All right, so the firearms might not be as worth as much with something like that happening, but it's always going to have some value, assuming you have bullets. Okay, now let's say nothing happens like that. Everything works itself out. Well, then these are most likely going to have their, whatever market value it has now, it's probably going to have it in the future. And firearms tend to stay ahead of inflation. Their value tends to go up as inflation goes up. So that's why, right now, I'm okay with collecting firearms. And it took me a long time to get to this point. It's not a bad place to put your money. It's, again, there's no guarantees, and you have to be careful with what you collect. And there's uncertainty with firearms right now. ARs, I know a lot of you love your ARs. We don't even know if those are going to be legal in 6 months. I mean, there's just that much uncertainty right now. They could be worth twice as much in 6 months. We just don't know right now. And for myself, I enjoy great hunting rifles, so I'm going to collect great hunting rifles. I already have started collecting them, even if I wouldn't admit it. I don't know that those are going to be worth much in the future. That's going to depend on the generations growing up now. That they might not want, Grandpa's old wooden stock, hunting rifles. And if there's no demand, then they're not going to be worth anything, or not much anyway. So, for the moment, though, guns are pretty stable. Okay, like I said, it took me a while to get to where I am now on this, but collecting is okay, and it's not wasteful. You have something tangible there that you didn't throw that money away. So those rifles in the safe, that's pretty much like money in the bank right now. As a matter of fact, it's probably better than money in the bank. Well, now that I've finally come to terms with it, it's okay to collect. And I don't mind promoting collecting now. I'm okay with it. Like I said, I'm thinking it's actually a good thing now. From a financial standpoint, in the rest of your life, from a simple living standpoint. With that said, though, I think there's some things that it's really good to be aware of when it comes to collecting. And the very first thing is why we collect. And the reason we collect is we're hunters. We're all hunters. I don't care if you don't hunt, you're still a hunter. So what do I mean by that? For me, I think the most exciting part about collecting is the hunt. The looking for that special whatever, that rare whatever. That's the fun part, the hunting it. And this OFM 49 here. My Uncle Lynn and my Uncle Lynn found this at a gun show many years ago. It was a bargain. He loved to bargain. He got it for next to nothing. Him and my mom went in together on it, basically. And this became my Christmas present when I was 13 or so. And I've mentioned that before. Well, I had problems hunting with it because I put a scope on it. And for these particular rifles, they make a scope mount that you can buy. It's pretty cheap, and it replaces the rear iron sight here. The problem is that those are not very good scope mounts, and save you money, don't get one if you're thinking about it. But they did make, if your FN49 has a dovetailed slot in the side of the receiver, they made scope mounts for the sniper versions of these. And I have been looking for one of these scope mounts for off and on for 20 years. Not every single day, but I looked pretty regularly for a long time. So we'll just say it was an exciting day when I finally found this scope mount. I've still got to put a scope in it, and I just want to know just how good can this rifle shoot. But I really enjoyed that. It was about the hunt, hunting for the scope mount, and this is just as much a trophy as anything. And I think for a lot of us, it's a natural transition into collecting from hunting, because as we get older, we generally have more disposable income, hopefully. Not always, anything can happen in life along the way, but hopefully we have more disposable income. But then we generally don't care as much about hunting as we get older. For a lot of us, we're not physically able as we get older. At some point, you just don't quite feel like going hunting. And I'm saying this as someone who had some serious health problems a few years ago. I couldn't hunt then. Okay, I'm still getting my strength back from all of that. And so I understand as you get older, things change with you physically. And so I think it's a natural transition for a lot of us to go into collecting, because you still get to hunt. You're just now hunting for firearms. And for those that have never hunted, you love firearms and just went straight into collecting, that's why you did it. It's about the hunt. And why do you think so many people are going to be lined up for the Black Friday sales here soon, saying they're social distancing as they knock each other out of the way to get in the store? They're hunting bargains. That's why people hit sales. We instinctively want to hunt for things of value. That's what collecting's about. Okay, so collecting, it can be fun, and have fun with it. All right, and collect whatever you enjoy. Just be aware of, it's not really so much about the things you get as, the experience of the hunt, the collecting, the hunting that whatever down. To get to that point, you have to know what you're collecting. Or you have to know what you're hunting in order to enjoy the hunt. So I said before that there are no rules to collecting, and there aren't, just as long as you enjoy it. But you really need to focus on something specific if you're going to collect, and you need to understand the value of the different firearms within that whatever niche you're into. If you're collecting FN49s, okay, you need to understand, some were produced in Egypt, some in Belgium. You need to know the different cartridges they were chambered for, that type thing. Pre-64 Winchesters, those have been popular with collectors for years. All right, well, some are worth a lot more than others, and depending on rarity and all that good stuff. Well, you're not really going to know all that until you specialize in pre-64 Winchesters. Or pre-64 Winchesters, they're expensive because they are popular with collectors. Let's say you can't afford to compete in that arena. I can't. So let's say you decide you're just going to collect, old 22s. Okay, you can find a lot of them, really reasonable prices. You have to know something about them also. And then once you start learning about them, then you get into, Okay, I really want to add this one to my collection, and that's the fun part. Okay, so like I've said before, with just life in general, it's not about the material things, it's about the experiences. Well, it's the same way with collecting, and just keep that in mind. Just remember that if you do get into collecting. I know I left a lot out. I mean, this is a pretty expansive topic here on collecting, and we could spend a lot of time talking about a lot of different options and ways to go about it and so forth. Everything from, you know, your latest and greatest ARs to, you know, flintlocks. I mean, this is a big subject. But hopefully I gave you some things to think about, and I hope, you know, hopefully you enjoyed this. And if you did, don't forget to hit the like button, and if you didn't, hit the like button anyway. Let YouTube know you enjoy shooting and hunting videos. And if you want to see what we're doing next week, which I have no clue what that's going to be at this point, hit the subscribe button and notification bell. God bless, and have a good day.